Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Jessica Griffin, and I am the manager of the Maji Center for New Ventures and Student Entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining us today. This is our second official event of the 2023-24 season for the Maji Center. At NATE, we honor and acknowledge that the land on which we learn, work, and live is Treaty 6 territory. We seek to learn from the history and lessons that have come before us and to draw on the wisdom of the First Peoples in Canada. Only through learning can we move forward in truth and reconciliation and to a better future together. It is an honor to introduce a distinguished NATE alumna, Miss Lina Heath, a true luminary in the beauty and fashion industries. With over 27 years at the helm of EvelineCharles Group of companies, Lina's career has been marked by exceptional achievements. As president of EvelineCharles, Lina oversaw diverse business operations, orchestrating the transformation of the company from a single location startup to a multi location enterprise. Her strengths lie in strategic business development, operational excellence, and financial acumen. She built and nurtured a high performing team, maintained brand standards, and exhibited a keen eye for budgeting and financial strategy. Lina's contributions extended to branding, product development, and facility design, reflecting her holistic approach to business. Her remarkable journey from entrepreneurship to professional leadership is an inspiring testament to the impact NATE alumni can have on their industries. Please join me in welcoming Lina Heath to the stage.
Excited to be here. I've completely enjoyed my experience with Nate, and that experience continued for many years after. And it's a pleasure for me to be here today to continue to share and to be present with the Nate students. So this is me. I'm Lina Heath. I went to Nate in 1995. I took the marketing program. It was a 2-year diploma program. I quickly found my way within the marketing industry and applied it to my personal interests, which is beauty. I love beauty and I love fashion. So I'll tell you a little bit of my story as we go through here. Um, as Jessica mentioned, I was with the EvelineCharles Group of Company for 27 years. It's a lifetime sentence, but I have loved it, and every day felt new. So even as I parted in the end just last year, I wasn't done yet. I get completely obsessed with the companies that I work for. I immerse myself in every part of the business. I worked with the company. EvelineCharles is actually my dad's first cousin. So Evelyn had a sister called Louise, and from a small town called Falher in northern Alberta. I don't know if anyone knows Falher. It's by Peace River. There's 1,000 people that live there. My house was number 10 in the town. We lived off Main Street, and Louise had a salon. And I spent a lot of time with Louise, and when I graduated high school, I talked to Evelyn, who had another single location salon in Edmonton. And that's really where my career started while I was going to school at NATE. As the president, I overlooked all operations, so really every department of the company, from finance, marketing, operations, payroll, every part of the business I had my fingers in. And the privilege I had is that I grew within the company. So when something was happening at the front desk or something was happening at the location level, I could have empathy, compassion, and understanding. But I also knew what it would take to get past it because I had lived those experiences myself. With the EvelineCharles Group, we started with salons and spas, we expanded to schools, and then EC Labs. And I'll elaborate a little bit on that as we move forward. And then just in 2023, in January, I joined Lucier Dermatology. I stayed in beauty. I'm the general manager. Lucier Dermatology is with Dr. Taher. He has a south side and a downtown location. And they're part of a larger group called Dermapure from Montreal. And they're the largest dermatology group in the world. And that has been confirmed by L'Oreal. Okay, and I identify myself as an entrepreneur. So as we go through here, I'll show how I've exercised that in the various businesses that I worked for. Okay, here we go, the early years. Okay, here we go. These are some pictures of my family here on Christmas morning. If you grew up here in Alberta, you're familiar with Sears Catalog. That was the fashion magazine for a small town Alberta. When Christmas came, you had the wish book, and then you would flip to the back and you would see what you would mark for your Christmas gifts that year. And for me, it was all about this big makeup palette. I circle it, I pull the pages, I would give it to my mom. All I wanted was makeup when I was just, as you can see here, a small child. And I did get it. It was my prize gift. And then you can see here that I continued to paint myself up with the makeup that I collected. So from a very early age, it was not something that was imposed on me. I actually really loved it. I really love fashion and beauty. My neighbor was the Avon lady. I don't know if you have an Avon lady in your neighborhood, but the campaigns that came every month, those were precious gifts that I had. They were fashion magazines, and I got all the little lipsticks and every little perfume sample possible. She really took me under her wing, and she had a definite impact on my life. There we go. Okay, it doesn't want to change for me. Okay, that's okay. We'll get to it right away. Okay, so as I got a little bit older, um, the careers that were presented to me or that I was surrounded by for really for women in this small town was to either be a teacher, which my mom was a teacher, or a nurse. And I didn't want to be a nurse. It wasn't in me to be a nurse, but I did think maybe I could be a teacher. I did a work experience in grade 11, and then I definitely crossed that off my list. I thought, thank goodness I did that work experience. It wasn't for me. And then I kind of floundered a little bit. I didn't know what I was going to take. There was a lot of pressure in grade 11, grade 12 to make this decision for the rest of your life, and I certainly felt that pressure. But fortunately, at the end of junior high, going into high school, we got cable TV. We had 3 channels, 2 English, 1 French, and then we flipped into cable, and my world opened up. That was my internet of that time. It was just to watch TV and to see what was available in other parts of the world. And as crazy as it sounds, there was a TV show called Melrose Place, and there was a character, Heather Locklear or Amanda Woodward, if you watch the show. But when I saw that, I really identified myself with that person. I said, when I grow up, that's what I want to do. I had a very clear vision after that. I want to dress that way. I want to have clients. I want to be in an executive office environment. And I was bitten by it. And then this is my girlfriend and I here in our kitchen here in the 90s here with my brother being a goofball. But the pair of us decided we were going to move to Edmonton. We spoke to our career counselor. You can imagine at that time, we didn't have internet. I didn't have an email address. We depended on the few people in the small town to give us an idea. And she had an older sibling that had gone to school and recommended Nate. We thought, okay, sounds good to me. She was gonna be copywriter, I was gonna be creative. We watched the show, we knew the language, we were gonna work for an agency, and we signed up. We signed up at NATE in 1995 for the marketing program. So she was gonna be my roommate. Guess what? She dropped out. She bailed out on me. I went to NATE anyway on my own, and I graduated. So here we go. Is there another little button I can press here? Okay, no, that's okay. Okay, this is my NATE picture here. I graduated. I was very proud. But when I arrived at NATE, it meant more to me than just going to post-secondary. It was a life-changing experience. I was moving to the city. I have some people here that are international students, but it meant like I was a restart. It was the next chapter of my life. I optimized every opportunity possible. I was on every committee, we go to every event, ooks this, ooks that. I was there. I really want to live the NATE life, and I did. And what an amazing experience that was, because you make friends, you make connections that last forever, whether it's with other students or your instructors. Optimize your time. Don't blend in with the walls. Make sure that you're present and connect as much as possible. That friend who was supposed to come to school with me in the same program wasn't there. My first class, all I could think about is who will I eat lunch with in 2 hours. So there's a girl that was sitting beside me, as you have now, and as soon as she sat down, I'm like, oh, what are you doing for lunch? She's like, nothing. I'm like, okay, let's go for lunch. And she's been my best friend since. She married my husband's friend. We've just been friends ever since. So forever friendships are formed. And the curriculum, marketing, sales, statistics, accounting, finance, organizational behavior. I can speak with confidence now on the other side is I've used every single course. Everything I learned was applicable. And I joke with my husband because he went to school for 5 years. He took American cults, history of rock and roll. I'm like, oh, that was time well spent. Like I'm sure you reference that all the time. But I have. And looking back, finance was another world for me. I was thinking was going to be all creative, fun, design, and then I had to take these other courses that were a bit of a stretch to what I anticipated. But my gosh, did they help me along the way? Okay, so we'll move on to the next. Okay, and then this kind of takes me to this Evelyn Charles experience. I had moved to Edmonton. I was walking through West Edmonton Mall, as everyone from out of town does. We ran into my aunt Evelyn with my parents. She didn't have a store at West Ed. She had just opened in August at the downtown location. And she said, "Oh, you're in town?" She had seen me work at the small convenience store in small town Alberta. I don't know if you've hopped in, but it's everything from the slush machine, hunting license, phone repair, dry cleaning, movie rental, everything in one place. And she had seen me service her there, and she said, "Why don't you work for me at the front desk?" And while I went to school, that's where I started my career in 1995. I had never thought that I was going to be I would spend my whole career there. I thought, as soon as I graduate, I'd be moving on to an agency. But I loved it so much that I was able to apply what I had learned and really amplify this marketing background that I had. And she hired me as a marketing coordinator, which meant secretary to her at the time. We only had the one location. And then it soon became a department. And then uh, a few years had passed. We had a manager that really was at the downtown location more of a customer service person that was moving on, and they were stuck. And I said, "Listen, I've done that before. Let me at it. I can do it." I was, I think, 21 years old at the time. I was like, I can do this. And they're like, "Well, you look like a kid." I know, but I know how to do the job. So I went in, and then I stayed in that career path for quite some time. I was a downtown manager when we opened Calgary. I was the operations director. And then as we opened in Kelowna and Vancouver, I was VP of operations. So that was a good go for about 10 years. And then in 2010, I became the president of the company. And from the stage really at the later years in operations and into 2010, I was Evelyn's right hand. And I was able to exercise a lot of things uh, in a position of entrepreneurship. Uh, she really trusted me to make a lot of decisions, and I was able to push through some ideas I thought would benefit the company. Yeah. So here we are. I have a few slides to share on some of the successes that we had at Evelyn Charles. So from 1995 to 2022, so that's quite some time, I was the president. At one time, we had 10 locations in Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Kelowna. We were a luxury salon, spa, beauty MD. We offered everything for hair services, skin, and body. And then we ventured into offering more medical treatments, so injectables and skin resurfacing. Because I had literally grown up, I grew up in that business. I overlooked, as I mentioned earlier, all departments. So I led the management team, and then I developed programs for everyone that reported to the managers, and then I also led the corporate team, which was accounting, operations, and marketing. And the peak annual revenue was 14 million at that time. So EC Academy opened in 2005, and it was adjacent to our new corporate office at the time. We had 3 locations, Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver. Our programs were Red Seal trades, so they were hairstyling, barbering, and aesthetics. And we had about 45 employees there. And I led admissions, which was very new. Sometimes people think that when you work for a company, there's always someone that's teaching you and mentoring you for the next position. But at this stage, it was forging and creating all from scratch. So I definitely know what it feels like to open a business from scratch and to have that entrepreneurial experience of working every hour, finding every resource necessary to get the business to go in, working with government compliance. I really, really had the experience opening the academy. So was it a tougher learning because it was new to me and I was doing it for the first time? But if we move on to EC Labs, I knew how. Now I knew how. I knew what doors to knock on. I knew what systems had to be implemented to open a new business. And that was from 2016 to 2022. We had the one business in Edmonton. We made personal care products. So we formulated and we manufactured beauty products. So hair care, skin care, body care. Our first customer was EvelineCharles, naturally. But we had a lot of national and international customers as well. So our largest customer, their products are sold in Cabela for men's deodorant products. It was about 35% of our business. They also sold in Walmart. And then we had barbering products that were a British company that had their head office in it was actually not in Europe, but their distribution was all through the world. I mean, from Australia all the way through the North America market. So we did well. Or last year we grew by 37%. So there was some successes that were applied from all the tougher learning years to make this a little bit easier moving forward. So that's why I describe myself as an entrepreneur. Is I was an entrepreneur within a company. Often entrepreneurs have a certain skill set, and usually they're very attached to the service or product that they offer, and they build a foundation for a company. And I know I recognize that that's not me. I'm not a hairdresser. Right now I work for a dermatologist. I'm not a dermatologist. What I do well, after everything that I've experienced, is I scale up companies. I bring in infrastructure, I grow them, and I make them more profitable. And that's where I have the most fun. Because I've been asked that many times, why don't you start your own business? Yeah, I could. I did that for EC Labs. I did that for the school. Ground up is a certain skill set, and some people really enjoy that climb. I thrive in the scale up. And now I'm a hired gun, which I recognize, I appreciate, and I absolutely love being at that stage. I like lots of employees, for example. So what I've learned as an entrepreneur is strategic business planning, operations, and facilities. I did a lot of construction management and design, accounting and finance. I've been at the table negotiating with accountants or lawyers or the government. I fought many battles with the government. Marketing, branding, and human resources. I love human resources. I love infrastructure related to increasing performance and building a team. I love that. That's my favorite thing. Okay, so I tried to pick some symbols here that would show visually my interpretation of entrepreneurship. So one is the first link in a chain is the entrepreneur. And there's a lot of different stresses on that first link. But I'm the second link. And I'm comfortable carrying the weight of everything below. I like being under stress. I seek being challenged. Okay, so I'm link number 2. Has anyone heard of the book, The E-Myth? Yeah, okay, if you haven't heard about it, go buy it. Honestly, it's a life-changing book. It talks about the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. So there are 3 different roles in a company. And sometimes there's a little bit of overlap. I definitely see myself having entrepreneurial skills, but I know I have strong management skills. So I work very well with entrepreneurs. I understand them, and they lean on me and they trust me because I can execute their vision. And the technician, I said, I'm not the technician. I know that already. I don't need to be everything to a company. I trust, and I need to work and lean on the technicians for every institution that I work for. Okay, so pick up that book, knowing what your strengths are. Sometimes it takes experience. If someone would have asked me this question when I started Nate, I probably wouldn't know the answer. But now that I've been working for a few decades, I know my place. I look for companies with strong entrepreneurial owners. So if an owner, when I was looking for a career change, I want an owner to be on site and I want them to work hard. I work hard. I like working a lot of hours. When something needs to be done, I like deadlines, and I want a leader that feels the same way and that is present. Okay? I like working for mid-sized companies, so 50 plus employees is my sweet spot, up to 100. At EvelineCharles, I grew the company to have over 300 employees. So I like employee-based companies. I excel in strategic planning and development. I like an entrepreneur, and I like this banter between myself and the entrepreneur and working on a vision and then working on the plan and all the steps, all the building blocks that come behind it. I build and develop management teams and strive for excellence and achieve brand and financial goals. So it's one thing to have some big ideas, but I like measuring and I like tracking and I like to see where we can move the needle to have a bigger rippling effect. And I need a high level of responsibility. I need to have authority to make decisions for the best interests of the company. So if someone's looking for someone to just say yes all the time, then they shouldn't hire me. If they want someone to help them meet their big picture goals, I'm your person. Okay, so that now that I knew what I liked when I was in a position to make a change, I aligned myself with Lucere Dermatology. So they have two clinics, as I mentioned, and they have a very unique positioning in the city is that they have a surgical suite. So the surgical suite is for the plastics, so kind of the face, the body, uh, veins, feet, so head to toe surgery in a private environment, private medical environment. They have about 70 employees. They have a full um, management team, but their leadership team consisted of people that just had been there long enough to get a promotion, but didn't necessarily have the skill set. So when possible, I helped build their skill set, and when necessary, I had to hire out and build the team. So I kind of know what a company needs at the top, and then I was able to build the management programs to optimize and retain all of our staff. And I like to say one thing that I'm very proud of the change I made from EvelineCharles going to Lucere is that we didn't lose one single employee, not one, because we made sure that they were taken care of and the systems were stronger than one person. So it wasn't about building one person, it was about building a strong company, and the proof is that not one person changed. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's a top performing group. So this DermaPure group is the largest group. So there's a lot of career opportunities for me within that group. And I can proudly say that they are the top of the entire group right here in Edmonton. You know, in Parsons and Ellerslie, we have the top dermatology clinic in Canada for revenue. So that's quite an accomplishment for the owners and the founders. And they're about 12 million right now. Next time will be 20. So they're right here from Edmonton. They grew up in Millwoods. Yep, yep, there. Okay, so this is a humble picture here. You can see how it doesn't look like it's a high fashion picture. I tell you that hairstyle was in style at the time. The shirt, it kind of takes your attention away from my medal that I'm trying to show off here, is that I love to achieve. So these are some little life lessons that I feel have supported me as I moved ahead in my growth. But one is I'm competitive. I like to win. I'm not good at sports. I have bad eye alignment. My eyes are a little bit crooked. So if there's other places that I can win, if we're playing board games, watch out. I like to win. And I have a high capacity for work. So I don't get tired. Like, you know, some people that get drained, I have somehow stamina to keep going. I have an obsessive personality. And it's something that I feel that through time I was able to practice. If I'm working on a presentation like this one, I can get into a zone, hours go by, no other thought will cloud my mind. My breathing slows down. It's like I am in the zone and nothing will stop me. And I've been able to apply that to accomplish and overcome some challenges because I can be all in without distraction. Okay, I like being challenged. I have an appetite for doing hard things. When stress happens, I turn on. It's like it's my time. So I turn on. Some people, they kind of get stressed out and it cripples them a little bit. For me, I don't know. It's like game on. I feel like it's somewhat of an athletic comparison. And I have a high tolerance for stress. I think I was just born with that, is I don't get stressed out. So I can just stay cool, put things in perspective. I'm resilient. So although I'm thankful for peak times in my career, I had lots of fun. I've traveled the world. I've been to Paris. I've been to England. I've been Hong Kong, Singapore, Guangzhou. I've been to a lot of different countries, and that was fun. But for me, the growth that I had as a professional was during our most difficult times. And when I think if I had to make a decision if I was able to accomplish something or not, when I think back of the difficult times, um, I'm surprised at I was able to continue to surpass because I just stuck to it, and the fight was never done. Like, no one can say no to me if it doesn't make sense. Um, but that's when I learned. So, no, I was invited to be a speaker at all sorts of conferences for the beauty industry, and you kind of get a little bit confident, like, oh, I know what I'm doing, until times get difficult. And then no one notices that you went through those difficult times, but that's really an opportunity that should be appreciated, because if you don't go through difficult times, you just don't get tough. Yeah. Responsible, so I feel accomplished when others trust me to make decisions. I have strong leadership skills. That's whether it's at home with my family growing up or in a business, is I like responsibility. So people can count on me, and they know I'm going to be there. And then last but not least, I always tell people, just be nice. So you can be tough and you can still be nice. I've been in a lot of tough negotiations with the landlord, and I really try to balance being respectful through the conversation without compromising meeting my goals. But you never know, they pop up somewhere else. Every industry is incestuous, and I've met with landlords, and we go hard, and then with respect, when we walk away, it's not a personal thing. We're both doing our jobs, and then I see them again, and they're working for a different landlord. And I think, thank God I didn't burn that bridge. So just be nice. I remember we had a religion class, and we had to pass a piece of paper with everybody's name on it, and you had to write down a positive quality about that person. I got my paper back, and it was nice. I'm like, nice? I'm on every committee. I headed intramurals. I don't even play sports. I'm on the yearbook committee. I'm on student union, and they wrote nice. But in hindsight, that was probably the best compliment. And when I put my kids to bed, I tell them, be nice. It will serve you well. Okay? So just kind of wrapping up some achievements over the years is in the Young Presidents Organization, I was the youngest female inducted in the Alberta chapter. I was a board member for the Professional Beauty Association, and I was the Spa Manager of the Year for North America when I was 21. UCLA executive, so this is a university in California in Los Angeles. I took a salon management program, graduated from that program. As Bio Alberta member and Alberta Agriculture guest speaker. Private career colleges, I was a board member for the education industry, junior achievement board member as well. And I worked on the Deloitte and Touche 50 Best Managed Companies and International Salon Awards. We were recipient of the Best Managed Companies in London and in Barcelona for our business operation. So this is just a little snapshot of my story through Nate, before Nate, and after Nate. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have this afternoon. Thank you.
You have a question? All right. And if you have a question online, pop it in the chat, and Dale will monitor it, and we'll make sure Lina gets asked those questions too.
Hi, my name is Ujjwal Modgil and I am from India and I want to become an entrepreneur. So my question is when starting a business, how to find right people like co-founders and first employees of your company. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. I think that is the most important thing, is that you hire the right people. So I know you've heard it a million times, but hire slow, fire fast, and make sure that you spend time with that person. So I've seen time and time and again, people, they hire someone and then they feel that they should be able to do their job, and then they're disappointed that they don't perform. Is that there's a lot of hand holding. And if they're not reprimanded, if they have questions, but they're encouraged, and you do a lot of side by side mentorship, you'll have the best success. Um, as a company gets a little bit bigger, I always suggest you look inside first. There's less risk. You know those people, you know where their strengths are and where the coaching opportunities are. So I always look inside first, but then when necessary, I hire from the outside, because sometimes you have great people that are very committed, but they just, it's not in them. And you can't change a person's skill set. You can train, but you can't. There's some qualities that just are not always present, and you have to hire outside. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Addie. I just want to know because I am a mother, and I just want to know if you're a mother too, and how do you manage your time climbing the corporate ladder and the success together with your family and as a mother?
I think that's a really important question. I think mothers are faced with making these decisions all the time. My mother worked as a teacher. I was 2 weeks old, and my mom went back to work as a teacher. So I had that role model in my life. I can see how my mom really struggled from being in her generation, feeling that she had to make every meal and wash all of her laundry, make her beds, and then be a teacher, go back to school at night, to do her things after we went to bed. So I grew up in that environment. I can say that I work a lot of hours. I don't have any feelings of shame working a lot of hours. I think I showed my two sons who are grown-ups now. I have one in grade 10 and one in university, and they have seen a female role model. We have a great relationship. When I have time, it goes to them. I make sure that I go to the hockey games, I go bring them to jujitsu. I'm there and present fully during those important moments. But they have learned a lot about business. We talk about business when we're having dinner, and I feel that we have prepared them for life because we're not raising kids, we're raising men in our house. And I see the comparison of some of their friends, sometimes some of the things that I hear, and then I hear my sons, their answers of it's been good training for them for life. So I don't, although I wasn't home as much as some mothers, I don't feel that they felt that I wasn't there for them.
Hi, my name is Paulo. Can I ask two questions? Yeah. So the very first one I would like to say is that you have a very amazing journey. Yeah, I'm really inspired. And my question is that I'm glad that you also found what you love in the early age. So is it just like straight line, or there's also curves on your journey? Like, are there some change of minds that you have a different passion or such?
Well, I think because I was forging new ground,
Mhm.
it wasn't always 100% clear, I guess, the long term goal, but I always knew what was next. So I feel that I'm lucky that I have a decisive personality and I always knew what was the next step. So I probably didn't see where the company would go or where I would be in 5 years. It's a funny question. Where are you going to be in 5 years? For me, that's like forever away. But I had a compass of the direction I want to go. And then I just had focus on the clarity on what's next, what's next, what's next. And that kept me on track.
Wow, yeah. Like you mentioned that you have a very clear vision. So my second question is that how to have that very clear vision as a student.
Mhm.
Let's say for my stand right now, because
So clear vision, I think it's just part of my personality. I get a little bit of, like I said, focused, if not obsessed, about working on something. So my vision, I guess I had intuition on what was necessary to move forward. And I feel that I have a pulse for what the customers are looking for and what the industry is pulling towards. So I think I'm aware, and then with that, I'm able to have clarity on what needs to happen next. So that with anticipation, I'm one step ahead, where perhaps some others are a little bit slower to move forward. I'm I'm in tune, and I have confidence, and I go.
oh, it's really amazing. Thank you so much.
And I'm actually just going to jump in here because I love the question about leadership and vision. And in a conversation I was having with students yesterday, we identified that one of the things that creates a leader is a clear vision, but also values, core values. And so I'm just curious to know, what do you consider your core values to be as a leader?
My personality is quite black and white. I have very strong values. So, doing the right thing always guides me. So that I mean, I think that is true to my heart. When it comes to a business, I one of our values is being the best. So, being the best. One is to have vision of what's next, to be a leader, a market leader for whatever the new concept or idea is, but doing it well, and making sure that there's no compromise there. And when you bring people that back to that, they say, "Oh, are we doing it the best we can?" often the best we can is better than good enough, right? So if everyone just pushes their best, then we can accomplish almost anything.
Thank you. I think what I hear in that is you have a strong sense of integrity and you're striving for excellence. I'm going to bring it over to Dale here so he can get some of our online questions as well.
Perfect. Lena, we got a question from Jerome online. He says, "Hi, Lena. How did you manage to stay successful in an ever-changing business slash industry such as beauty and fashion for over 20 years?"
I think with beauty and fashion, it's always changing. So there's some industries that are slower to change and grow, and others are like technology are very fast. So there's another book that I read. It's not the big that eat the small; it's the fast that eat the slow. And I think that that has been key in the beauty industry, but it would apply to any. Is that it's better to make a good decision with 80% of the information than to make an excellent decision and being late. So you have to do your due diligence, get the information that you need to make a decision, and then have the guts to do it and to work as hard as possible to meet that goal, but to be limber enough that you're not so stubborn on an idea that you can't make a slight adjustment moving forward. And then that's the guidance I give to a lot of my staff is listen, don't be crippled with decision making. A lot of decisions, we make thousands of decisions a day. Some decisions don't need a lot of time. Don't give them a lot of time. Give your time to the most important decisions. And then with that, commit. And then if you have to make a small adjustment, do so, but don't be slow.
Before I ask another question, did any of our other students or guests? Yeah, absolutely.
Hi. So I was wondering what prompted you or what made you take that big leap from leaving Evelyn Charles to the dermatology business?
The shift.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
so
shift.
a big shift was the company had gone through different, they were at a different stage of their cycle. Um, Evelyn, her health was not well, and she wanted to exit. So it was okay. I helped her with that transition. I wrapped up every company we had, which is a skill set I never had before. So I was there to the end. Honestly, I worked for months after my termination date to make sure that everyone was taken care of. And I back to those principles. I just could not leave any loose ends. But then I went to dermatology. I did some research. I want to stay in beauty, but I want to continue on a professional trajectory, and that meant the health dermatology path. And we were just so lucky to have Dr. Taher and Lucia here in Edmonton. My husband said, "Do we need to move?" Because his job, he could continue in any city. And for us, it was better for our family to stay in Edmonton. And we had this great business that was in our backyard that I feel very privileged to have joined.
Hello. I have couple of more questions and how to get funding for your venture and how to stay ahead of your competitors.
Yes, two very big questions. So if I don't forget the second one, the first one is the financing. So that was, like I said, when I went to school at night, I thought, that's someone else. We'll hire an accountant for that. Like, we'll hire that out. Like, that's not where my heart was. And those were lessons I had to learn along the way. I have presented many times to bankers, and that is one path for financing, traditional financing, of course. You need to have some security to it. So or you get smaller amounts and you start with that and you kind of grow from there. But there are so many other opportunities when you're starting a company. And I think that's where my eyes were opened with government loans and grants that have better repayment terms, and you pay part of it back and they give you part of it. That is that our governments typically want to stimulate the economy. They want jobs, they want innovation. So do your research there. That's better money than securing your house, your life, and everything through traditional financing. So I would that would be the advice that I learned. And what was the second was about staying ahead of the competition. Well, you have to like love it, right? So you have to be obsessed about it. When it came to fashion and beauty, it's not my job; it's my life. Like there's not a clear, it's not distinguished in two different things. I read fashion. When I'm on my computer at night, I am reading about it, I'm following it, it's following me, I'm immersed. So when you're immersed, then you have a feeling of where it's going next. So you want to say about ahead of the competition, then you got to do your research and be all in, or work for an entrepreneur that does that. But if you're an entrepreneur, you can't sit on your laurels and wait for someone else to have that instinct. You have to find it within you.
Lina, unless anyone else has a question, I think this will be our last one for today. I'm going to take it just because I'm curious. I love how you talked about your greatest learning happened in those challenging times. And you mentioned you kind of have a personality that just like loves to work and is very tenacious. But I am wondering, do you have any specific resiliency practices that you implement when you are going through one of those challenging times?
So one exercise of resilience is that I put things in perspective and I tell myself, okay, this is a tough time. Tough times are temporary. Good times are temporary. Everything is temporary. And I tell myself, we're not saving lives. You know, we will survive this in some way. Um, so I try to calm myself and put things in perspective. But like I said, my whole life, I don't know, I have a tolerance for stress. But sometimes the best answers come when you sleep. So I think that's another exercise is that, you know, you stay up as long as you can because your wheels are turning. Then you just have to shut it off and sleep so that you have clarity. And often the answers come in the morning. You know, but if you're staying up all night, you can't even finish a thought. And you know, it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been on spreadsheets and moving money around and trying to figure things out. And you know, I figure it out, but often it's in the morning. And I find that in my life, I'm surprised that it keeps coming to me. People say figure it out because I figure it out. They can count on me, right? And I think that's what's nice about an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur working together is you're not alone. You know, there's lean on people that are in your team. And actually, another best practice I want to share is when I feel like, holy moly, the weight is on my shoulders. It could be in the middle of the night. I thank people. So I thank people in the middle of the night, you know, like, thank God I have these people working for us. And then they find the energy, they're motivated to help me. You know, so I thank people and I appreciate this, I appreciate this. And then in the morning, they're like, hey, I thought about this. And all of a sudden, they have some ideas that might help you find an answer.
Break the rules, and we're going to have one more.
Hi, Lena. I just was wondering because you were with Evelyn Charles during COVID, right?
Yes.
Was it difficult, like kind of managing both, like all of the aspects of the business during?
That's a good question. And it was a kind of pivotal time for us. So when COVID started, it's just an odd timing thing, but I was in negotiation with a few landlords for renewals and they wanted long term and I wanted short term. I didn't know kind of where the company was going to be taking us. And then when COVID came, we were in it for a few months. Again, being in tune, I could see that this has been happening a long time in China. This is not going to be an overnight problem to overcome. So we closed stores. We had to. We couldn't sustain them. The landlords still want to be paid. They have still financial responsibilities. So we had to really shrink the company during that time. The miracle that happened because there was so much stress during that time, we still had all these financial responsibilities, was that we had EC Labs. So we had a few different companies. And just when we thought we can't take one more day of blows, we received our equipment that we had a government grant for. And we got the equipment in January. COVID is happening in China. In March, we started making hand sanitizer. I fought like a mad person to get our site licenses, like insane person fighting to get the site licenses, and we did. And from March to June, we did $2.1 million of hand sanitizer. And that saved the company for a few years. The challenge with COVID is that it did last a long time. And then the government was generous with loans, and this is a lesson learned, is that although they were on good terms, like better than any money we could get, they were handing it out, we were taking it, we were happy to have it, it was keeping our doors open. We didn't accumulate external debt because we were getting this government debt, but you have to pay that money back. And when we came out of it, like we had fewer businesses, and it just came to a point where everyone's like, I'm so tired, I can't, like, We need to pass this on. That's what we did.
Thank
So,
you.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, I would like everyone to give Lina a big round of applause. What an incredible story. Thank you so much, Lina. And, I particularly love you gave so many great pieces of wisdom for our students, but, you are a student and there are going to be tough times. And to kind of summarize what Lina said earlier is it's like, first of all, get your sleep. Go to bed, don't stay up all night studying. Um, this too shall pass, right? When you're in those hard moments, whether you're a student, you're building your business, just keeping that in perspective. No one does it alone. I heard like keep those connections and that community. And then I love the last one, having gratitude, reaching out to folks, thanking them, building that network that way. So, again, so much gratitude to you, Lina. So inspiring for us as another woman entrepreneur. I love hearing your journey. So amazing and incredible. So let's give another round of applause. And I'm sure everyone on online is applauding as well, too. Thank you so much to everyone who came today as well. We do have 2 more Lunch and Learns next week. On Tuesday, we have Bean Gill, founder of Paralysis, as well as featured on the docu-series of Push, another amazing story of perseverance and overcoming life's challenges. So definitely recommend that. And then next Friday, we'll have Priya Windsor, the founder of Compass Chocolates, coming in to talk about another fireside chat, so a Q&A style type event, and to talk about her journey after leaving Nate's culinary arts program and building one of my favorite types of company, a chocolate company. And again, if you have been inspired, remember Dale is here to talk to you about the Blue Book program. We are still accepting registrations for that. And please do go to the Maji website to check out the other events we have coming up at the end of the month, as well as all fall and into the new year as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Spread the word, bring a friend. We would love to have more in person. And thank you to everyone who's been online as well. Have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend.
yes, no, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'd like to continue my relationship with Nate. No, that's okay.
We do record it. So
Okay.
we have a Moodle with about 2,000 students.
Okay.
So they'll be able to see
Can
all
tune
of
in if they
that
want to.
and-
Yes. My
Absolutely.
pleasure.
But I have to tell you, so I went to a downtown high school. I went to the Missouri School of the Arts, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I would always see EvelineCharles, and me and my friends would be like, "Oh, that's where we want to go to get our hair done." But we couldn't afford
Downtown.
it as students. So.
Downtown is like my hometown. After I left